All right. 3, 2, and 1. Well, the Big 12 listened to me, ladies and gentlemen, and it's a good thing that they did because it made the league some money and earned the league some hard-earned respect in the process. Welcome into the channel. John Kurtz here. No live show on Sunday because we were watching Arizona and Iowa State, obviously. So here, it's a little recap of what the Big 12 did this weekend. They tied a league record by sending 4 teams into the Sweet 16. Went 6-1 in the first round of the tournament. Kansas, what are you doing? Kansas. But outside of that, everybody performed pretty damn well for the Big 12. And it turned into a really nice weekend. Tied for second in terms of most teams in the Sweet 16 with the Big 10, who also had 4. The SEC had 7, which, as you can see on the outline, is going to be talked about here eventually in a different video. But man, crazy that we're living in a world where the only loss for the Big 12 in the first round of the tournament was Kansas, who was a 7 seed and got beat by Coach Cal and Arkansas. And if you watched that Arkansas team like a month ago, that's a pretty shocking thing to realize that that's what happened to Kansas. And it is a missed opportunity. You look back on it like, man, Kansas, like the Big 12 could have easily had 5 teams in the Sweet 16 there because St. John's, I thought, was a little bit fraudulent all year, and they got exposed by Arkansas. So if Kansas just didn't melt down every single time they got in a close game with under 2 minutes to go, this could have been a different deal. But Bill Self and the Jayhawks have some problems to figure out. But outside of that, Houston takes care of business, which was great. They are, speaking of money, and I'll tell you more about the money the Big 12 made here in just a moment. But speaking of the money, Houston is the moneymaker now. I just brought up Kansas's struggles. Like, we're at a point now where Houston has made 6 straight Sweet 16s, 6 straight second weekends. And yes, Kansas has the national championship from a couple of years ago, from 3 years ago with Bill Self. But outside of that, they have not made a second weekend since 2018. So Kelvin Sampson's the dude now in the conference. Kansas has not come close to touching them in terms of winning the league the last 2 years. These are the guys, and they're the ones that are going to have to go do this, it would appear, for the Big 12. They certainly have the highest upside in terms of being a national champion this year. They have a lot of the elements that are necessary. And even though they had to kind of hang on, right? I mean, they had to kind of hang on against Gonzaga. That was a tough draw, right? That was a top 10 KenPom team. They were the number 9 team in the country, according to KenPom. And if you scoff at analytics, I suppose that's fine. But that to me would lend some credence to, like, that's a really tough draw in the second round for an 8-9 matchup, and showed a lot of mettle, Houston did, by jumping out and really being in control of the game and then finding a way in the end. That's it. Survive and advance. That's all it takes. That was a pretty good Gonzaga team. And speaking of teams that are always in the Sweet 16, that's a program with a lot of championship level experience that is used to being in the second weekend of the tournament. So I give a lot of credit to Houston there. Really excited to watch them continue on here, like what we saw from the Cougs. Texas Tech, another team that I think has Final Four elements at least. We'll see about championship elements when you watch, a team like Duke, for instance, this weekend. Sorry, Baylor. That becomes more difficult when you're thinking about, okay, can some of these teams beat Duke? I think Houston could. I don't know that Texas Tech could, but Tech could certainly make a Final Four if they stay healthy. I mean, that's a big part of this. But Texas Tech, man, that Drake team, I mean, that's a 30-win team. You saw what they did to Mizzou. All this hype about the SEC. You saw what they did to Mizzou. And Texas Tech handled them. Really, really nice job. Impressive stuff from Grant McCaslin. And Tech showed some versatility. Like, that's to go from shooting 46 threes in the first game that you play to then scoring 50 points in the paint and only making 2 threes in the second game that you play and winning both. I mean, hey, styles make fights. Adapt your style to the fight. Texas Tech certainly did that. And that, again, is the type of thing that shows me that they can be a Final Four contending team. They have the ability and the pieces to win in different ways and find different guys to step up, by the way, like Kerwin Walton. Where did that come from? That was crazy. Kerwin Walton just making every single 3 and damn near dropping 30. So they can find it in different ways when they need it. BYU, you guys know that I loved BYU as a Final Four sleeper, and I feel like that played out in spades, man. I mean, they had another one of those games where it was like, okay, jumped out in front of Wisconsin, held them at arm's length, and had to just hold on for dear life at the end, but they did. And that was after, I don't want to gloss over the VCU win for BYU, which that was a very popular upset pick. People loved VCU. There were some demons there for BYU to avenge after losing to an 11 seed A10 champion in the first round last year. Got past that with no problem with VCU. A lot of bad history. I know Cougar fans have probably been a little bit scarred. It's been since 2011 since they made the second weekend with Jimmer. But with Jimmer in the stands, they're watching. It's happening. And this BYU team, I don't think cares very much about any, past history that could be at least holding the fan base back a little bit. So love that for BYU. I mean, I said two things would help them be a Final Four contender and really propel the Cougars. One of those was that they have a lot of depth, and I think we definitely saw that. They had 50 bench points combined in the two games, 26 in one, 24 in the other. You got 10 guys that are playing 10-plus minutes. It was 9 or 10. Maybe one of those didn't quite hit 10. But BYU's go so deep, which is rare at this point when rotations get shortened. You're typically looking at like 7 or 8 being the rotation for your average team at this stage of the tournament. That really helps to have some fresh legs. It also helps when, you get somebody tossed for a ridiculous reason. Anybody who saw the Dawson Baker ejection, like, what a sham, just trying to step through a double team. And I guess they're saying like elbowed a guy in the groin. And even though it wasn't intentional, I'm just like, what are we doing? Like, can we get some common sense in the rules? I digress. Anyway, it was similar to what we saw that was the Texas Tech Houston game earlier this year, right? I mean, a very, very, very similar instance there. But the other thing is just BYU's offense. I mean, this is why I think they have a high ceiling. Now, it also runs the risk of, you hit a night in the tourney where you're not shooting very well. Do you have enough to grind your way to a win? That hasn't been a problem. They had the Wisconsin game, BYU shoots 49% from the field, 46% from three, 93% from the free throw line. Like, that's insane. That's great work. That's a sign of an elite offense. And that's what Kevin Young's been able to foster here in year one already. So lots of weird angular storylines going on with Mark Pope is in the Sweet 16 with Kentucky, but here's Kevin Young and BYU, clearly a better team than they were last year. Coach Cal is in that Sweet 16 too. So that Kentucky, BYU, Arkansas thing, got a really weird kind of triangle going on there. BYU, by the way, first team in the tourney to beat a Big Ten team. So congratulations to the Cougars there. The second team in the tourney to beat a Big Ten team, the Arizona Wildcats, who hopefully you stayed up late to watch that. I could rant about the way that sequence of games was scheduled on Saturday and Sunday. I think it's kind of ridiculous that they do it that way. We've got like standalone games early on, like just stagger them better, please. But Arizona, man, what about the perseverance of Arizona? Got down 19-4 and then just busted Oregon's ass the rest of the way. And again, had to kind of hold on. Big 12 teams didn't finish particularly strong, but they got enough. And Caleb Love led with one of the best individual games of the tournament. He is very enigmatic. That he can shoot you into a game, shoot you out of a game, but he had everything working. And when he's on, I mean, he's about as fun as anybody in college basketball to watch. So, yeah, I mean, getting down 19-4, I just thought, I kind of was like, man, it's going to flip the script on the narrative for the Big 12 after Baylor got pummeled by Duke. And then, Iowa State, I won't spend a ton of time on that, but they got absolutely depleted by Ole Miss. Like, it was not looking great there, but Arizona showed a lot of poise. Tommy Lloyd basically just kind of shrugged off a question about it when he had to do the in-game interview. Was like, whatever, we'll be fine. And they were. He knew his team. Credit to Tommy Lloyd. Great stuff there from Arizona.